Welcome to Fight for Life, a pro-life radio show discussing the ministry of First Choice Pregnancy Services here in Las Vegas. I'm Deborah, board member and executive director of First Choice Pregnancy Services.
And I'm Jessica, logistics specialist at First Choice Pregnancy Services.
We are ambassadors for the unborn. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Fight for Life friends. Thanks for joining us today. This is Jess, and I'm with my girl, Celeste. We're your ambassadors on behalf of the unborn babies everywhere, and we're here to share insights and real life stories of what we've experienced in this Fight for Life. We have an incredible guest this week that Celeste will be introducing momentarily. We've had the privilege of getting to know him this week, and as we work side by side at First Choice, so please stay tuned for this interview.
Today, we are kicking off our broadcast with our weekly updates so you can stay connected to the First Choice Ministry and how many lives are affected by your support. From June 1st to June 7th, in the year of our Lord, First Choice provided free 59 pregnancy tests and 45 free ultrasounds to our patients. The patients we serve are mainly abortion-bound, but we serve women from all walks of life. It's important to reach them with our free services and speak up for their defenseless child. If you'd like to join the conversation or if you're interested in sponsoring this radio show, please call into the station at 702-650-5588. So today's guest is Mason Champ. Sorry, Mason, we're going to have to help me with that. I just butchered it. I'm so sorry. So you are the pro-life Spider-Man. So welcome, Mason. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got the nickname Pro-Life Spider-Man.
Yeah, I guess it's really simple. I climb skyscrapers to raise money for women in crisis pregnancy, and so it sounds silly. Like, how do you save babies by climbing a skyscraper? But every time we climb, I generate an enormous amount of news attention, and so I just use that to fundraise for these women who need help and raise awareness for the movement and try to show people that there are alternatives to abortion.
Wow. That's
how
incredible.
did you come up with this idea? How did God just direct your life to this moment in time?
Yeah, I actually stole the idea.
So you're not the first pro-life Spider-Man?
I'm the first pro-life Spider-Man.
Okay.
But I stole the idea from this guy named Alain Robert, and he's one of my heroes, and it's so cool now that I get to be his friend, I guess. But he was climbing skyscrapers in the 90s and 2000s. He's 60 years old and he's still doing it. It's kind of incredible.
Wow.
But he's known as the French Spider-Man.
Okay.
And so he just went around the world. He climbed the Sears Tower in 1999 with just his hands and feet. So he's incredible. And in 2008, he had climbed the New York Times building to protest climate change. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, that's really cool. What if we had someone like that in the conservative movement doing things for fighting for the unborn? How much of an impact could that make? And it's pretty cool to see, I guess, the lives that I feel blessed that I've gotten to save by doing something as silly as climbing a skyscraper.
Well, It does bring a lot of attention when you have the media covering this, because usually when you see somebody on the side of the building or they're at the top, everyone's assuming that they're there to commit suicide or
Right.
they're there to die, and so it draws out the media attention, and only to find out that's actually not what's going on. So how does that normally work when the media comes out and you're able to tell them what you're really there for?
Oh gosh, it's crazy. So I'll climb these buildings, and beforehand, I get really nervous because there's a lot of money involved to set everything up, right? It's probably about $5,000 a tower, sometimes a little more. We have to pay for drone photographers and hotels and plane tickets. And if I don't get on that building, then it's all the money down the drain, and I feel like I took money away from the movement when I'm trying to raise money for it. And so beforehand, I'm puking. I'm just so nervous.
Oh, wow.
And because I'm worried that I'm going to get stopped before I get on the building. But as soon as I get on, all of that goes away, and I'm just focused. And it's so crazy to see the response. the last one, I mean, there were like 12 fire trucks, and it'd be hard not to get media attention doing this. I think there was a SWAT team on the roof, and it was actually, I think, the best media response so far. I mean, just all of Phoenix was there to sort of film it and broadcast it around the world. And so they're always like really surprised when they find out it's for the pro-life movement and not just some guy self-promoting, I guess.
Oh,
Wow. It's like the, like it reminds me of David and Goliath. These buildings are like Goliath. You're going out.
Well, I think if I was about to climb a building like that with no gear, which is what you're doing, right? You're not wearing any gear. I would be throwing up from the thought of doing that. But he's scared because he doesn't want to jeopardize the money that's been invested in this.
Yeah, well, so like I'm a rock climber. That's how I guess I got involved into climbing buildings. Was I knew it was possible because I climbed stuff on rock. And a lot of the buildings I'm climbing, they're not as hard as rock, and so I can go into it comfortably knowing that I'm gonna be fine. Mm-hmm. It's what makes buildings hard is that it's repetitive. So it's the same move over and over and over again. That's a good thing and a bad thing, because when I do the first 10 feet, if I can do that, then I know the rest of the building's going to be the same. But the problem with it is it's kind of like an exercise machine to where you're working the same exact muscle over and over again. And so you just have to find good ways to rest while you're up there to kind of regenerate your strength. And if you can do that, then as a rock climber, a trained rock climber, I'm not that scared of it.
I did notice that you were doing that on some of the climbs that I've watched you do myself. It's very intimidating watching. I mean, some people are just scared of heights in general, but I look up at him and I'm going, oh my gosh. He has unique camera view angles. So he has the drones that are over here watching him head on, but he also has cameras on his person, so he's able to get those unique camera moments as well, where he's climbing up, and so we feel like we're there with him. We feel like we're there climbing these buildings with him, and there'll be moments where he like just takes a break, and you're wondering, is he going to drop? Or he'll take a moment and he'll look at his hands, and his hands will be bloodied because, like he said, he does not wear any gear to protect himself. And so one would think that might be a little contradictory to the cause, but I don't think so. You see how much drive and compassion that he has for the lives of the unborn, and it comes out in his work and in his field, and God has directed him to this moment. He's conditioned his body through being a Las Vegas resident and using our mountains out here to climb. What's your favorite climbs out here?
Oh gosh, I mean, Red Rock is some of my favorite climbing in the whole country, and one of the reasons is just, I guess, the weather is fantastic. Other places like Yosemite, I was just up there last week, and it was like May 21st, and it was so hot, and so the rock was getting greasy, and I couldn't get a lot of good climbing in. And so you look at the weather window up there, you really get a month in May, and then maybe a couple months in the fall, late September, October, and sometimes early November. Whereas in Las Vegas, I can climb from late September all the way into early May, and the odds are the conditions are going to be fantastic. And it's kind of cool because when I was going to school here at UNLV, I could go climb a 2,000-foot mountain and then make it to class.
Oh, wow.
And you can't really do that anywhere else in the country. So,
what did you go to college for at UNLV?
I went to school for finance.
For finance.
Yeah. It's a little boring, but it makes money.
Well, boys and girls, it shows that if you go to school or university for one thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what your career is going to be in.
The direction that you go.
But I hope you are using that degree, because finance is always good.
Why pro-life? How did you get started in the pro-life?
Yeah, so the story kind of goes like I was sitting at home one day, and I was online on Instagram, and I'd seen the photos from the Justice for the Five incident that had happened. And for people at home that don't know what that is, some friends of mine were outside of an abortion clinic in Washington, D.C. when a medical waste truck pulled up, and they had asked the driver, like, hey, do you care if we take one of these boxes home? And the guy was like, why do you want one of these boxes? And my friends just said, well, we just want to give these babies a proper burial. So the guy gave them these boxes, and they took them home. And inside were over 120 image-bearing children of God, and 5 of which were almost completely full term. And I mean, these babies were just brutally torn apart.
Yes.
And what we can only predict is a illegal process. I mean, what we think happened was what's called a partial birth abortion, to where the baby's being born and it's killed. And so I saw these photos, and my heart was just broken. I was convicted, and then I learned that not only was the doctor, Cesar Santangelo, not arrested, but my friends who obtained the bodies were arrested and put in jail. And so that doctor is still out killing children to this day. And so when I saw these photos, I just felt like I had to do something, and now was the time. And it's kind of crazy how it worked, because I couldn't stop thinking about it for like a month. And I had raised enough money from just some friends I had to pay for the photographers to go up there. And I would sit in class all day and just think of climbing this tower, the Salesforce Tower. And I had the plane tickets for like a month. And I ended up dropping out of school because I just like, I can't learn anything. I'm just sitting here thinking of these babies and thinking of this tower. And finally the day came where I flew out to San Francisco to climb the building, and that same day was the day that the Dobbs draft was leaked.
Wow.
And so it was like this, I don't know, providence, if you want to call it that, but I just felt reassured that like this is your calling.
Yeah.
In a way.
That's all God's good timing.
That is amazing.
It was like a confirmation on his life right
Yeah.
there. So, what have been some of your favorite climbs that you've done for this cause?
Yeah, so I tell people, like, climbing buildings isn't actually that much fun.
Because it's a lot different than climbing rocks.
So much different.
Yeah.
It's repetitive. I like to use the word thuggy, but by that I mean like awkward.
Okay.
A lot of them are just awkward climbing. And so, like, at first I had a lot of fun with it. And the Salesforce was a lot of fun because it was the first, and it was so tall. I mean, it was 1,070 feet. And I mean, like, when I climb El Cap is 3,000 feet. That's in Yosemite.
Okay.
3,000 foot tall mountain. But everything around it is really large as well. So I don't feel like I'm that high up in the air. I mean, sometimes you do when you get to the very top, but you're so tired, you're just ready to go home. But climbing the Salesforce Tower was different because you're just on this lone pillar in the middle of the city overlooking all of San Francisco. So that one was a lot of fun. The Devon Tower was really fun in Oklahoma City. The climbing on that was just more enjoyable. The Chase Tower so far has been the hardest. That was, I mean, legit rock climb. I had to, turn on the boosters a little bit. So I'd say that was probably my favorite, just because I had to actually like work hard on it.
Wow.
Have you gone internationally with this, or just stay domestically here in the U.S.?
Just domestically in the U.S., the pro-life movement, like I said, it's really expensive to climb these towers. We spend about $5,000. So like to do that overseas would cost a lot of money. Maybe one day we'll convince enough people to donate enough money, and we'll make it profitable enough to where that's worth doing, hopefully.
Just don't go anywhere where they won't send you back for committing a crime.
Right, exactly.
Oh, that'd be fun.
So I have another question for you. So this kind of, with all of your other climbing friends in this kind of industry, I mean, do you get a lot of questions about why you do this for pro-life? I mean, because this is a lot of, I mean, it's a small world, I'm sure, but there's a lot of people out there that rock climb and climb buildings, but they have no idea, what pro-life is, why we fight for the unborn. Do you get a lot of questions about that?
So right now in America, I'm probably the only person who's climbing buildings. There's been some people before, but they're sort of out of commission. In Europe right now, you have maybe like a group of 10 different guys, and it's funny because we're all kind of friends online, and we'll like FaceTime each other and stuff. It's a really small community, but the climbing community at large is way bigger than people think. I mean, there's millions of us in the United States, and it's a very liberal community. And so when I climbed the Salesforce Tower and I guess I came out as pro-life, I received death threats.
Wow.
I received all sorts of judgment, but like they sent me all these hate messages thinking I would fold. But I'm like, why would I care about what a bunch of people living in their vans have to say like about killing children? Like
keyboard warriors.
Yeah. And it's like,
wow.
It's so sad that that's one of the reasons why people don't speak out is just criticism. But it's like, we shouldn't be scared of what our friends or our family has to say. We should be scared of what God has to say.
Amen.
And I guess more importantly, like how we answer the question, what did you do to save my children? Because we're going to be asked that.
That's
Amen.
right. I know that there's been some really awesome experiences that you've had since you've started this whole ministry. Can you share with us about some of those experiences and specifically about saving babies?
Oh, yeah. So today on Christian radio, we are going to talk about jail. But so every time I do these buildings,
You'd be surprised how many Christians have been there.
Yeah.
Paul was one.
Every time I climb these buildings, there's always police waiting for me at the top. And I get a lot of criticism because I do go to jail. It's usually only for a few hours because funny enough, but climbing skyscrapers is not illegal. There's no law that says you can't climb it. So they arrest me to try to prove a point, and I use that time in jail to evangelize. You read the book of Acts, and these guys, they were arrested in every city they went to. They were stoned to death. And so I said, this is the best thing I can do is use this time to speak to these people who really need to be spoken to. And Oklahoma County Jail, they threw me in there, and it was so dirty. I mean, they had failed all their health codes. There was feces on the ground.
Oh my!
There was bugs everywhere. It was disgusting. And I tried to talk to these guys as much as I could about why I was in there and why I'm pro-life. And it's funny because if you're in jail for any other reason, no one really wants to listen to you. They're really aggressive. They get in your face. But you tell them you climb skyscrapers, and that's a really good icebreaker. But, I was in there, and I was talking to these guys about God and the pro-life movement. And about a couple weeks went by, and the organization I raised money for is called Let Them Live. And the CEO of Let Them Live called me on the phone, and he said, we just had a woman call in, and she said that her boyfriend met you in Oklahoma County Jail, and they want to cancel their abortion. And so because I was in that spot at that time, in Oklahoma County Jail, we were able to save a life from abortion. And I guess it's like, use your time wisely.
Wow, what a mighty God we serve, just of how he uses you. And then here you get arrested on bogus terms. And then here God in his sovereignty brings, just you evangelizing to that person, that man. It's amazing, the God that we serve, how mighty he is.
Now I've got that song stuck in my head.
Which
what a
one?
mighty God we serve. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible testimony, Mason. This is amazing that you do this.
But are there times where you get scared?
I always say, fear is sort of the inverse of faith. And so, when I was climbing on the Chase Tower, I was using this technique called stemming, and you stick out your hands and feet on one side and your other hands and feet on the other side like a star, and you just use the pressure of your body to scooch your way up and just sort of shimmy up two walls. And I was climbing on this textured cement, and there I was, and all of the texture just broke out from under my feet. And my feet slipped, and so I was only being held up by my two arms that I had.
Oh my gosh, Mason, don't tell me this.
yeah, but
the mom in me is coming out.
It's quite normal on rock climbing, in rock, for that to happen. And so you sort of collect yourself, and you find a spot where you can just sit and breathe for a second and continue. But I tell people, like, whenever that happens, I always just remember why I'm there and who I'm fighting for. And the story that comes to mind for me the most when I'm in those situations is I was in D.C. for the March for Life this last year, and Nathan, my boss again, CEO of Let Them Live, he comes in the door and he's holding this baby, and he hands her to me and puts her in my lap, and she's just this beautiful baby. She's got a bow in her hair, and she took her hand and she put it around my finger. And as I'm holding this baby, Nathan looks at me and he says, "That's a baby that you saved by climbing skyscrapers." And he went on to say that had you not done that, had we not raised money to help her mother, that hand that was around my finger would have been ripped off in the late-term abortion.
Wow.
And the bow that was on her head would never been there because her skull would have been crushed. And so I just remind myself of who I'm fighting for, and not only that, but just the enormity of what's happening right now in America. And I tell people, like, if you really believe what you say,
Yes.
if you really believe that you're pro-life and that abortion is murder, then what we're living through right now is a Holocaust. It is a Holocaust that's greater than any genocide that's ever occurred in the entire world. It's over 70 million babies murdered. And so we can't have this fear. We have to be fearless. And again, it comes down to, do you believe what you say?
Right.
Do you believe that Christ died for your sins and offered you eternal life? And if you do, then what is there to fear? There's nothing to fear.
Amen. Amazing.
Well, you might be asking, listeners, how exactly can you get involved locally here in Las Vegas? And this is very similar work at First Choice, what we're doing, as Mason is doing on a regular basis by climbing these skyscrapers. That's a tongue twister. But the good news is that you don't have to climb skyscrapers like Mason does in order to get involved.
There's a sign-up sheet on my website, though.
You can guarantee my name will not be on this spreadsheet.
I second that. But we do have opportunities for you to get involved at First Choice, including an event that's coming up on the 24th that we have mentioned on the radio, but it's getting closer, so we want to make sure that we cover it a little bit more as well. It's going to be held on June 24th, starting at 12 p.m. It's going to be our second annual memorial and awareness rally honoring our forgotten babies, and it's going to be on the 1-year anniversary of Roe v. Wade being reversed or being overturned. And it's going to be held at Iglesia Cristiana Fuego del Espíritu Santo. They're going to be graciously hosting that event for us. Their address is 890 East Sahara Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada 89104, right outside of First Choice. So if you can't find the church, just come to First Choice. We share a private drive with this wonderful Spanish church that's hosting for us. And actually, we flank Death March Road. So please call us 702-294-2273 or go to fcpsfriends.org to find out more about that event or to donate to First Choice as well. We do want to, in the last minute or so, briefly talk about an abortion pill reversal that is underway right now. Last week, our executive director, Deborah, was notified of a woman that was looking for an abortion reversal through Heartbeat International, who's a network of pro-life pregnancy centers across the nation that we happen to be a part of. Our patient explained that she took the first abortion pill on June 1st. We received notification the following day on the 2nd. We already had time kind of stacked against us because a full 24 hours had already lapsed by the time we were notified and brought in. And we know that time is of the absolute essence when it comes to these abortion pill reversals that we do. Every single minute is absolutely necessary to you know what I'm trying to say, Celeste. You fill in here for me. It's critical for these. It's critical for these babies. Thank you.
Frame.
So, and because 24 hours had already passed, we wanted to make sure we got her that counteracting medicine right away. Our patient had shared that she had gone to another ultrasound company and verified that the baby was actually still alive. So Dr. Hamza made contact with her, prescribed her the necessary life-saving medication. She began taking them, and she's actually scheduled for her follow-up ultrasound right now. So as we speak to you, she's at First Choice getting her follow-up ultrasound. So please lift her up in prayer that this baby is going to be fine. We thank you so much, Mason, for coming on the radio with us, and we hope to have you back again soon. God bless, listeners, and we will see you here next week.
Thanks for joining your ambassadors for the unborn on the Fight for Life radio today and every Thursday on KKVV 1060 AM, the best news radio, the gospel airship.
If you'd like to support the cause of saving unborn babies, or if you have a question you'd like us to answer on the air, go to fcpsfriends.org or call us at 702-294-CARE. Again, that number is 702-294-2273.
On behalf of his little ones, thank you and God bless.